Act 1, and we've learned lots of things about what happens in Act 1. So I'm going to write you a quick summary just to remind you. We met Brave Macbeth. Lots of really important quotes for his physical strength, his masculine courage, lots of imagery of him as a royal beast of prey. Some of it's incredibly brutal and grotesque. There's a description of him bathing in reeking wounds. He is Bellona's bridegroom, and he carved his passage, and his sword is moving so fast that it begins to smoke with bloody execution. And really importantly, he is described first by the bloody man. But we first hear his name from the witches in Act 1. And the witches say to Macbeth, when they meet him again, that he will be king. And they give him 3 greetings. 3 is a magical number. So it's hail, hello, to thee, Thane of Glamis, and that's his current title. Then they say hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor, and he's not Thane of Cawdor. So he finds that quite weird, and he says, well, how can I be Thane of Cawdor? Because the Thane of Cawdor is a gentleman who is still alive, except he's not alive. The audience knows he's not alive. They actually know he's a traitor, and Macbeth is going to be given his title by King Duncan. So that's big dramatic irony. And obviously that makes the audience begin to question when the witches say the third prophecy, which is the third prediction, hail Macbeth, who shall be king hereafter. So at some point in the future, he's going to become king. So they're giving him a title that it wouldn't be realistic for him to get because he's not the king's son. The king has got a son, the Prince of Cumbernauld, who is called Malcolm, and also another son called Donalbain. And the king is alive because Macbeth and Banquo fought so very bravely to protect him. So Macbeth writes a letter to his wife, Lady Macbeth, and he says to her, hey, all this stuff just happened. So the first time that we meet Lady Macbeth, she's actually reading Macbeth's words. She's alone on stage, and she's just repeating. So she even repeats the words of the witches, and that gives her quite a creepy witch-like quality for other reasons too, which we looked at in last lesson. She was talking about how she's transported into the future, and then she starts praying to evil spirits. And this is obviously quite sinister, not just for Shakespeare's audience, that she seems to be talking to demons and asking them to do impossible things. She wants night to cover the earth, and she presents it as something really thick, quite choking, and she talks about how they must take away her feminine qualities with those quotes which are unsex me, take my milk for gall, turn my milk into poison. And she has battlements. She's talking about my battlements. She says Duncan won't leave, I will do it, don't worry. So the relationship between them completely changes. Now, I know you're excited to start putting some notes on this, and you are probably absolutely desperate to start reading it. And I don't think I need all these windows open, do I? Obviously. So let's have a look. This is a scene at Macbeth's castle. We know Duncan's there because he turned up, and he gave Lady Macbeth a Duncan. Lady Macbeth a diamond. My daughter's just run into the room. That's why I can't speak straight. Okay, so here we've got Banquo. I hope you remember who Banquo is. Macbeth's friend. They meet the witches together. The witches say that Banquo will be the father of kings, which is kind of weird because Macbeth's going to be the king. So unless they're going to have babies together, how would that be even possible? So he's talking to his son. So Banquo's son is called Fleance. And he says, "How's the night going, boy?" And Fleance says, "The moon is down." What this means is explained here. So you want to join up the color coding. I might do this one. But actually, you've got your own copy of this text, which means you can color code your own version. And pastel is better, as you can see. When I'm doing it a little bit darker, it's a little bit harder to read. So the moon is down. It's after midnight. Midnight is between one day and the next, so it's kind of like a point between two worlds. A little bit like where you have opposites reversing in fair is foul and foul is fair. So it's a transition, and that's a kind of creepy time. He doesn't know what time it is because he hasn't heard the clock, but Banquo has got a bad feeling. A heavy summons to go to sleep feels like lead upon me. So that's imagery of being crushed, something heavy, something serious. There's a way, so you can join them up and you can put them in the same colour. You might want to pick out the keywords because obviously that's what gets you the higher grade. And try and keep your colour coding logical, so not everything is in the same colour, because that can get confusing. So, Macbeth's friend Banquo, outside the castle, on guard. He's talking to his son. Oh, it's a bit dark. I'm feeling quite tired and quite heavy, and yet I would not sleep. I don't want to sleep. Merciful powers, this is a prayer, he's praying to merciful powers. Hold back in me the cursed thoughts, the nightmares that nature gives way to in sleep. He's worried that he's going to have nightmares, possibly because he's just met the witches. Macbeth turns up with a torch and Banquo freaks out and he's like, "Oh, who's there? Who's there?" Macbeth says he's his friend. I don't know if Macbeth is really his friend. We're going to find out later. So Banquo says, "Oh, what, sir? Are you not yet at rest? Have you not gone to sleep yet?" The king's in bed, and this diamond he is greeting your wife with. He's given a white diamond to Lady Macbeth, which is nice. If you go to someone's house to bring them a diamond, because a diamond is unbreakable, it's pure, and it's really precious. So you can link that. So Duncan is linked to the diamond, something that's unbreakable and pure, which is ironic because they want to murder him. And also ironic because the person he gives the diamond to wants to murder him. Duncan is sleeping. Banquo can't sleep, obviously. Macbeth can't sleep. But the king can sleep. Now, I love going to sleep. It's one of my favourite things ever. But it could also suggest that he's quite vulnerable or quite weak, or he's not paying attention when he should. So he's sleeping in this measureless or infinite content. So a kind of infinite peacefulness. Now, if any of this is a little bit tricky to understand, you can put a note in the margin. So you could write that next to it. So measureless means infinite. Content is peacefulness. It's quite a nice key quote. I would probably grab that as a quote that I would want to learn, because if you get a question about different types of king or a question about Duncan, then this would be super useful for that. Now, turning it pink, key quotes. Macbeth says, "I dreamed last night of the three weird sisters." The weird sisters are witches, by the way. So I'll just put a note in the margin there. And you can do that too, because I don't think it's on your version. Sorry, Banquo says he dreamed of the witches. Probably that's why he's having nightmares. To you, they have showed some truth. Think about the truth that the witches have already showed to Macbeth. They said he would be Thane of Cawdor. And ooh, he is Thane of Cawdor. Macbeth says, "Oh, I don't really think about the witches anymore. Personally, I think he's lying. because he was talking about Lady Macbeth. So we saw her read the letter. I think we know he is really thinking about the witches. Yet, perhaps we may spend some words upon that business. Perhaps you and I should speak a little bit about that business, that thing with the witches. Now, the word business is, it makes it quite vague, and they usually use this word for the murder as well, so that's quite creepy for the audience. Now, this is a little bit tricky. Macbeth says to Banquo, if you stick, this is the note. I don't know why the note is here, it's in the wrong place. If you stick with me, there you go. When I become king, I will make some honour for you. He's kind of talking in riddles. It's the same thing as last time, where it feels confusing, but that's actually deliberate. So you might want to put that in the margin, because that word could not be any more vague. And that is also incredibly vague. And it's definitely not anybody being stupid if they can't understand that, because Macbeth doesn't want anyone to understand if they're listening in. Now, Banquo says, I will be advised, as in I'll have a think about it. Macbeth says, okay, have a good sleep in the meanwhile. Banquo leaves, so does Fleance, Banquo's son. And he says to his servants, that's who he's speaking to here, because the servant's still on the stage, go tell your mistress, Lady Macbeth, when my drink is ready, she needs to strike the bell. And they haven't got mobile phones in those days, so they have to bang on a bell if they want to send a message to each other. Then, really weird and creepy things start happening. This is a big key speech, and I'm actually going to end this recording at this point so that I can do this speech for you all in one go, and we will probably have some questions in between. Okay, bye!